Hello, everyone, and welcome to the penultimate round of the spring series of the BUSR F1 in 2024. I hope you're having a fine Saturday evening, and we should have some very exciting racing action for you because not only is it the spiritual home of F1 in Great Britain, England land at Silverstone, but it is a sprint race as well. So extra action for you to get yourselves into. Of course, it is myself, Tom, and Alex in the commentary box this evening. Alex, let's talk about last week first off. Singapore wasn't a classic, but there was one driver who, as always, was head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah, it was Cameron Sol that came out on the lead once again with a rather convincing win against the rest of the field there, with Geek and RWB picking up his second podium of the season in P3 there. It was a rather uneventful race as I would have as predicted against. I did. I thought it was going to be a little bit more chaotic than that, as per Azerbaijan and Las Vegas. It was a little bit more tame than what we're used to at the BUSR. But that said, no short of incidents and whatnot on the track. Alex Louch picking up a 10-second time penalty for a bit of a risky dive bomb on lap 1 of turn 1. Baby getting disqualified as well from retiring from the race when he was outside of the pits, which is not in the rulebook of the BUSR. If you do retire outside on the racetrack, that does lead to a safety car and can screw up a lot of people's strategies. That said,
absolutely,
it was another race where Cameron Sol extends his lead once again, ahead by 40 points of Geek and Matty. Geek and Matty close to each other, relatively speaking, in terms of how points are handed out here. 461 and 449 points to Geek and Matty respectively. Those two are going to be fighting for P2, but it does look like Cameron Sol right now is the favourite for this. But we do have a sprint race. We do have a race. We do have 2 Grand Prix here. Cameron can get the win if Geek and Matty do finish a little bit lower. But we will see how it goes for this race.
Technically, the championship could be sewn up, like you said, 40 points with you'd need quite the swing. I don't think it's going to happen unless there's a disaster. We should also note as well that Cameron Sol, obviously retiring in Vegas, has won every other race. But another retirement that could just throw things into jeopardy a little bit. But yeah, been class above everybody else. Been so dominant. We'll get the bad news out of the way first. It is a slightly small lobby. Only 13 drivers, so unlike the last few weeks where we've had some decently sized lobbies, it's going to be a bit of a small one, unfortunately for us. We were one driver away from getting a full lobby one, but matters not. We will plough on with how the rest of this weekend's action will go. Silverstone as a track itself, legendary. We don't need to introduce it, of course. Had some changes over the years and also has some very controversial moments. But in the history of BUSR, it is usually a little bit of a banger.
Yeah, no, it's going to be quite an interesting race, this one. It's Silverstone doesn't always lend itself to some good overtaking opportunities, but down into turn 6 just by Luffield, you can get a good run on somebody on the inside there. I was situated there in 2017 watching it in person. That was a great race to watch. But yeah. Trying to go around side by people, Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, those kind of places are not going to be the best places to go for a move. You're going to get a lot of dirt, you're going to pick up a lot of dirty air, and it's going to be quite tough to follow people. But Stowe is another good overtaking opportunity with DRS down into that corner there. Turn 6th gear, it can be done. It is a bit risky because it is quite a long corner, so you can be forced out wide, or you try clip somebody's wheel or something like that. It can happen. Vale, another good place to overtake, so we could see some good action. Turn one of lap 1 is going to be interesting to see how if people are really willing to go right to the wall and take that flat out. So we'll see how this race pans out so far. I think right now, as it stands, we are definitely going to be having a full lobby. We were trying to hold out just a tiny bit of hope to see if we can get one person to leave. But, happens. 21 drivers, you've got to have 2 lobbies. So, oh well, indeed. So
put up and shut up, I think, is the way to go forward. But sprint race, of course, like you mentioned, just for anyone that is still unaware, the game F1 23 does not have the current sprint format or last year's sprint format because it has changed slightly for 24 as well. So it will be the same as what we saw in 21 and 22. So yeah, if you make a mess of it in the sprint, you are going to be starting towards the back. It's an interesting dynamic. We don't see it a lot, well, at all anymore in real life, of course. So drivers will have to deal with that, of course. And obviously, Silverstone being in the UK, weather is often unpredictable. So expect maybe a sprinkling of rain to appear in any of the 3 sessions that will be ahead of us in the next couple of hours. Predictions, obviously, Cameron Searle is the standout one. Filling the podium, though, that's been, there've been a few drivers in and around that the last couple of weeks.
you can get Matty, Geek and Matty, obviously your 2 favourites for a podium. And Assassin Alpha as well, also coming up there and around abouts there. And that is an absolute torrential downpour for the qualifying session that is underway right now. Everyone in the pit lane now going to be slapping on those wet tyres and maybe even just waiting out. AD's already left the session, probably should be rejoining back very soon, maybe even a restart of the lobby. But that said, wet weather. Going to be interesting to see how it pans out right now. Maybe it subsides really quickly and we get some intermediate running a little bit later on into this qualifying session. But at the moment, everyone's just going to sit in the pits for now.
It doesn't look a lot like it's going to subside anytime soon. That is
torrential,
is the perfect word for it. I think oars will be more suitable than wet weather tyres. And obviously we don't see the full wet tyres very often in real life because everybody absolutely loathes them and they're utterly, utterly useless. So yeah, the game slightly unrealistic there because the wet tyres not as terrible as they are in real life. We're going to wait and see if anybody comes out. If people do stay in the pits, that will probably tell us we are going to see it drying up, or at least the rain starting to ease up towards the middle and end of the session. But yeah, they would have been practicing in the rain, of course, because they know how the weather shapes up. So everybody will be dialed in, or at least dialed in enough to cope with these torrential conditions. And Matty, you can see in the top right, already selected those intermediate tyres. I think this could be a bit of a long wait, as we do actually have a McLaren coming out onto the track. Who is that? We're going to see as they exit the pits. Can't see at the moment because you can't ride on board. And I think it is Alpha, is it? Yes, it is. Oh no, it's Assassin.
Yep. So we've got Assassin on the wet tyres coming out now. Matty going to just sit on the intermediates to try see if we can get any kind of intermediate running on these, because that will be the favourite tyre. Hopefully, if the rain does subside, but it does look like it's not going to be doing that as the clouds, excuse me, as the clouds are overhead, very thick, and not going to be budging out anytime soon right now, as we've got Tomahawk and Matty also out. And so Matty's going to be our benchmark for the intermediate tyres running. As soon as those inters cross the wet tyres, it's going to be everyone into the pits and everyone onto the inters. So Matty right now is our man to be looking out for, but we've now got Assassin just trying to prepare those wet tyres as much as possible. Obviously in the wet you can't really heat up the tyres as much as you would like to, but that said, it has to be done. The carcass temperatures have to be up there somewhere. And Joe on the wet tyre as well, Matt on the inters. Let's see if he's a little bit more confident through Cop's corner. A little bit, trying to hang around it. Obviously there's a prep for that, but he can try to get a good feel of the grip levels out there right now.
Yeah, so Matty assuming the guinea pig role, and I wonder if anybody else will follow suit. There's clearly a disagreement, though, between the two Williams drivers, because Joe is still on those blue wet weather compounds, and yeah, we're going to have to wait and see how that dynamic works. We're going to go for a first lap in the pouring rain around Silverstone. We're going to go on board with that beautiful papaya McLaren of Assassin J as we come up round the final corner now onto the Hamilton straight. This could be a very treacherous corner in the dry. Certainly in the wet, you're going to be really struggling for traction. Ignore the delta in the top right-hand corner as it finally switches away from 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Through Abbey, through Farm Curve we go. And now into this very rewarding first sector through Village and up towards the loop. You've got to be very careful you don't clatter the massive sausage curbs on the inside. You can carry quite a bit of speed in the dry. Obviously in the wet, you've got to be very careful. Through entry, this is flat out in the dry. You can see by the throttle trace in the bottom of the screen. Definitely not flat out in these conditions. You've got to be very careful. It can be a zone where you come a cropper. We don't get the sector time. Thank you very much, Codemaster in EA Sports, as it disappears. Obviously, it is a purple lap time, as it is the only one that has been set so far through Luffield and Woodcote and up towards Copse, where we saw that massive incident in real life between Hamilton and Verstappen. Bit of a wobble on the exit of Woodcote, but matters not. Assassin will continue to charge down what used to be the old main straight and up towards what used to be turn number one. Copse corner, brilliant corner, flat out, obviously in the dry, shifting down one. I'm surprised it didn't go into fifth, try and keep the revs high. It's going straight back up into seventh and eighth before we reach the world famous Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel Corner, and taking it very tentatively, as you would expect in these weather conditions. Been a fairly neat and tidy middle sector, leaving a little bit of time on the table as Assassin just gets warmed up onto the hanger straight. We've got a couple of cars backing up through the final couple of corners of Vale and Club, coming up to Stowe. This is where we saw Michael Schumacher break his legs back in 1999, I think it was. That's much cleaner and much tidier from Assassin as we come up to the final few corners. The newer section of the circuit. This can be very, very tricky. Mind the sausage curbs, just like in the first sector. They can really take you out. Joe has retired. I wonder if that's in the pits, maybe. We'll have to wait and see. Assassin around the final corner, and the lap time hasn't appeared. There we go. 1 minute 40.8. You would imagine that gets beaten, and Tom Hug already eclipsing it by over a second.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a quite a spread out field here. I wonder how Matty's going to be faring on this lap. We couldn't see his sector times there, and he goes third. No, okay, no, he's actually.
The delta's a bit broken.
Now.
It's going to.
Yeah, I'm very confused. There we go. 1 minute 40. So the wets are still quicker than the inters, it seems. But that said, we could be seeing the inters come into their own shortly indeed. It doesn't seem to be. I'm not sure if it's just the camera or my poor quality of my internet, but I can't see. Oh no, okay, there we go. I see just quite a heavy sprinkling of rain on the camera, so it does look like it's just going to be sticking out on the wet tires as much as possible now. Aria getting a little bit shaky there. Trying to exit the Chapel Corner, as I almost get flashbangs by the camera change there. Aria now trying to take Stowe as neatly as possible there. These wet conditions can really catch people out in this game. As the revs in this game can really screw you over if you're in too low of a gear. All of a sudden your revs are too high and your wheels just spin out and you just lose all traction. So normally you'll be wanting to short shift a little bit here. Aria going P3, just above Assassin, just below Tom Hogg. Alpha now still keeping his P1 slot now, as Assassin is trying to go for as many runs as he can on these tyres and trying to dry out the track as much as possible, probably.
Yep, Alpha temporarily at least, but Papaya on the top step of the podium. Assassin going for a cool down lap before going again, recharging that battery. Area, not surprising that lap was a little bit away from the benchmark time with that big mistake going through Beckett's and Chapel. Rob with Ice Boy now in the Mercedes. We see Bazza in 6th place. We haven't seen Bazza for what feels like an eternity. Returning, lovely to see the Haas driver back, formerly of Ferrari, of course. We're going to see what the first Mercedes can do as we come into the final set. The yellow flag, and I think a Red Bull maybe facing it the wrong way. I believe that is Aria, who's had a bit of a whoopsie going through Luffield and Woodcote. Can Ice Boy negotiate club corner neat and tight? We'll have to wait and see. The conditions seem to be changing a little bit. The rain certainly not falling as hard as it was before. Clatters that inside sausage curb, though. That's a bit of a tongue twister coming round the final corner. It looks like this is going to be a pretty competitive time, although the delta is obviously broken at the top of our screen. What is this going to be? We have to wait, and it is a 40.4, and that is still 8 tenths down. There's Cameron Searle, though, 38.79 tenths per second between himself and Alpha, and the benchmark firmly laid down by the championship leader and probably champion-elect. Willie Blobbs would love to slot into that gap between Cameron Searle and Alpha in the Ferrari, but a poor opening, that 46.2. Probably a mistake around there, which it is, of course, very easy to do.
I just want to point out, by the way, Baz was here last week, actually, in Singapore. Yeah, it was quite a nice return to see him, to be honest. And that is Aria losing it and going and breaking his front wing, trying to enter the pits there.
Well, that looked a bit like a wheel failure. When you pause the game and the wheel just sort of takes over and steers you straight into the ball. That's what it looked like. Thankfully, the wheels all still attached to the tethers and the chassis, so Aria won't be out of the session. But yeah, obviously I wasn't here last week, so nice to see Bazza returning on a more regular basis.
Yeah, you hopefully should be here for next week as well. Cameron Sell, though, teaching everyone how it's done there, going almost a second quicker than Alpha, and almost just over 2 seconds quicker than Tom Hug. But yeah, Cameron Sell, I believe he was on the wet tyres there, so definitely the tyre to be on right now. Matty probably also on those tyres, probably also thinking about going on those tyres now, as Ice Boy is also going on for a second push up. I think this is the second push up now. Oh no, he's going straight into the pits, my bad. Yeah, they're going to have to start clearing out a lot of the standing water that's on the track if the rain starts to subside a little bit more. Obviously, we can't see the forecast, but they can. There is, a little forecast that you can see. Camera still getting a little bit twitchy there, coming up through turn 1. No, sorry, that's not turn 1, is it? That's my quality is shot down massively. He's just come out of Stoke, Cops, hasn't he? Anyway, Cameron also trying to clear out as much as standing water as possible, because that is the best way to try to draw out the track as much as possible, is just to keep running on it as constantly as possible. So maybe some higher fuel runs coming out. So maybe not everyone's really at where they want to be right now. I'm not sure about you, but I think No, I was going to say the clouds are starting to clear up, but it doesn't really look like it on my end, to be honest. I need to...
Well, I would actually say that the rain is definitely not falling as hard as it was earlier, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Matty coming back out on those intermediate tyres in a few minutes' time. Apologies for anybody watching, because Discord is having a few connection issues right now, so apologies if there are any stutters going on, but yeah. Unfortunate, that is what happens with the software sometimes. Not the most reliable. We're not sponsored by them. It's fine. Woolly Blobs in the middle sector trying to improve on what's been 2 fairly poor laps so far. Woolly Blobs a very quick driver in that Ferrari. 46 and 42 laps set so far. That will surely be invalidated, though, over the curb at Copse. Well, the red, the track map doesn't turn the same colour as the bodywork of that Scarlet car. So somehow has managed to get away with that, probably by lifting off a little bit off the circuit. We'll see what the delta time is going through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. A little bit wobbly again, really struggling to get the power down. We don't have an improvement, thank you very much, game. It is a purple middle sector, although that is quite often a lie, of course, so we'll have to wait and see what happens when the Ferrari cuts the beam in about 20 seconds time.
Yeah, no, the timing's been all over the place right now, but yeah, he does seem to be probably just couldn't find the delta there, and I was just trying to go again for another lap. Maybe you just go straight after it. If he's got enough battery for it, he's probably just going to try to see. Oh, and he spins it straight away, coming out of Club Corner there. Very fortunate to not lose it into a barrier, but obviously that pit straight is quite wide for pit straight standards, and there wasn't anything in his way. No, thankfully, no other drivers were around him at that point in time there, so he just goes on with his merry way there. Probably going to be switching tyres rather soon after this lap.
Club Corner turning into Comedy Club Corner, as that was a comedy of errors from Woolly Blobs trying to get the tyres prepared for another flying lap and making a complete mess of it. Assassin was 0.6 of a second up, but you can see the track starting to dry, and that is why the McLaren is returning to the pits with not long left to go in the session, because I think those green striped intermediate tyres are going to replace the wet weather tyres very, very shortly. It'd be nice to see the drivers that are on outlaps, if they have put those intermediate tyres on. We'll have to wait and see. Well, Geek certainly isn't on those tyres on the wets. Waited a long time to get this lap in, and we are seeing people coming out on the inter, so Geek may have got his timing and strategy a little bit wrong here. You'd expect him to go to the top of the table, considering the conditions are far better than what we saw Cameron Sell and Alpha have to deal with, and it is a purple middle sector. Take that with a pinch of salt, though, because it isn't always accurate as we come up towards Stowe. How can the Ferrari cope with this corner, where in real life we've seen some trials and tribulations for this team around this corner in the past? Takes it nice and tidy, doesn't use too much curb on the exit, and can now set about attacking these final couple of corners. Try and be confident, use all the grip that you can find on the road, and maybe a little bit outside as well, coming round the final corner of Club. His teammate had a comedy of errors on the previous lap. Geek, this doesn't look overly competitive. 40.0 it says there, although it hasn't actually updated his position. No, 38.6. Still 0.7 of a second down on Cameron Sell.
Yeah, this track's going to be massively improving now. It seems to me that the rain is pretty much died down to a mid drizzle. Matty on his oh no, sorry, is that Matty? No, I thought he was on a push up. Wait, no, okay, that's just me being a bit dumb. Aria on a push up, I think right now, currently around the and he's just having a bit of a wiggle time. Wow, he almost loses it down into Cops. backs out from there and lets RWB go. RWB and AD not setting a lap right now, probably both of them waiting for the track to drop a little bit, and it seems that has paid off indeed. Ari going into the pits, probably on for the intermediate tyres. RWB now coming through Luffield corner and going onto the old pit straight, seeing how fast he can go here. Obviously, he hasn't set a lap time yet, so we're not really sure about his pace in the wet, and I haven't seen him drive the wet yet. So this could be quite an interesting result for him. Obviously, he did get P3 in Singapore last week, so maybe he can be out here again to try to replicate these results that he set. Obviously, coming in for a P3 in Australia as well. We didn't watch that race sadly enough because we didn't have any people on hand to stream it, but that said, he did put a very commendable effort through these past few races, since this is his first year in the BUSR series. So hopefully more to come from him. Now, RWB rounding out the final corner. Where is he going to go?
Should be
going to take a while.
Timing charts. I think it was top for the Mercedes. Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's a 0.3 gap to Cameron Searle. Cameron Searle probably going to be now slapping on the intermediate tyres as well, and probably going a little bit faster than that if I had to hazard a guess here. Now we've got BUSR coming through. Was that an improvement there? The timing is, there we go, 1 minute 36. That is top of the timing sheets once again. And now everyone's going to be scrambling out for a final lap here. The people in the pits right now, gotta make a move on soon. We've got only about 2 minutes left, and for an out lap in the wet and for a push lap as well, they've got to be making it out very soon.
BUSR was very, very fortunate not to lose that lap as Iceboy jumps up into second place. It's Aston Martin, Mercedes, Haas, Aston Martin. No, it's not. Aston Martin, Mercedes, Haas, Mercedes, AlphaTauri. But I think that AlphaTauri is going to jump from fifth, I can't read, up into first. And that is miles quicker than everyone else. Purple overall as well. 35.3, 1 second advantage, and that handy 1 second gap that we've seen from Cameron Searle so often in qualifying appearing once again. 2 minutes of the session to go. Top 5 have all set their lap times on the intermediate tyres. Matty only doing 1 lap on the inters earlier on in the session. Didn't fancy it then, definitely fancying it now as the conditions continue to improve. Alpha light flashing at the back of that McLaren car tells you that it is still very wet at the moment. We're going to see how the McLaren tackles this final couple of corners. This is a nice little sequence that you can get your teeth into at the end of the lap. Hopefully you don't mess it up. BUSR went very wide a few moments ago. Says it's a 39.9. I don't believe that for a second. It's a 35.7. Joins Cameron Searle in the 1 minute 35s and only 0.4 of a second. That's a decent little lap there from the McLaren.
These guys now really the track now is like lighting up with a bunch of different colors, red, green and purple and yellow. Everyone on the track now trying to be improving on these times. Now Assassin comes through to complete his lap and goes third fastest with a 1:36.2, still 0.5 off of his teammate in the other McLaren, and over just under a second behind Cameron Searle. Cameron Searle really putting out the pace here and setting the benchmark for everyone to beat here. Iceboy coming around for the final corner again, probably going to be waiting for the lap time to come up a little bit later on, and he goes, was he 5th? No.
I don't think he improved. Cameron Searle certainly improved.
No, yeah.
34.0, 1.7 seconds the advantage now. Big names tumbling down towards the back of the pile because they haven't set these competitive laps and leaving themselves a lot of work to do. But it is the biggest name of all, the championship leader, who continues to break boundaries. Matty is actually invalidated, was 4 seconds up, putting pressure on himself. The reigning champion is only going to get 1 attempt, and that looked a little bit wobbly through the final corner. Speaking of wobbly, Wooly Blobs, who has gone for a few adventures so far this session, invalidating as well. This will be the last chance for the Ferrari to go again on those intermediate tyres. It's coming down to the crunch point with only 30 seconds of the session to go. Alpha doing some lawn mowing, and that's going to be the end of the McLaren session. Second will be the best, and with the conditions rapidly improving, Alpha could be losing a couple of places here. Currently AlphaTauri from the 2 McLarens ahead of the Aston Martin of Tom Hug and Iceboy. Alpha the first over the line to complete the session, but I think is going to get bumped down. RWB 35.4, still 1.4 seconds down on Cameron Searle, but that is a competitive lap time so far. We'll have to wait and see what the others can manage. Assassin half a second down on his teammate so far, finding time in the first couple of sectors as the track continues to improve. Will this be be a decent improvement for the McLaren. We won't see it just about yet. Slots just in behind, stays in fourth, but a half a second improvement and is just 0.02 of a second behind teammate Alpha Tom hugging that Aston Martin. Going again, the lap time still hasn't updated. Into second. Session over for the Aston Martin, but that is a competitive time of a 35.1. Ice Boys look pretty quick throughout the entirety of the session so far. Will the Mercedes join his teammate RWB inside the top four? Well, onto the front row, 0.9 of a second down still. Cameron Sell looking a class above, as he usually does. We'll wait for Geek and Matty, who we've not seen a lot of in this session. That is very wide. Ferrari will compromise the Red Bull, who jumps ahead of the two McLaren drivers. Little club falling on the 1 minute 35.7s. BUSR competitive time as well. Half a second quicker than that group. You can see the track conditions improving all the time. No improvement can Cameron Searle over the line, but is way out in front. We wait for Geek and Matty, who round the final couple of corners. Where is the Williams driver over the line? The delay is, the tension's building. We don't know it's second, and Geek slots just in behind, 0.02 of a second, separating the drivers battling for second in the championship. But as it so often is, it is Cameron Searle out in front, and with a sizable margin as well.
Yeah, Cameron Searle really showing how it's done there with the in the wet weather and going right to the top of the timing sheets. And Matty and Geek obviously are two usual suspects around P2 and P3. Both of them coming to fill out the remaining top three spots there. But it is going to be an interesting race. Some people are a little bit further aloft than they would hope to be. You've got some drivers where probably they wouldn't want to be right now, and you've got the likes of both of the Mercedes drivers did incredibly well that session as well, but it was at the end, Geek and Matty, they got the timing just pretty much perfect, really. They went out at the last minute possible when the track was at its best,
and conversely, set the fastest times. The two McLarens getting it completely wrong. They've been quick all session, but ending up towards the lower reaches of the top 10, being the first drivers over the line. Alpha making a complete mess of the final corner as well. And that was, session over for the driver that was provisionally in second, tumbling down to, I think it was 7th or 8th maybe, at the flag for Alpha, which would be disappointing. Of course, we'll wait and see what happens as we get into the sprint. We don't know the weather yet, of course. The drivers will do, and we'll have to wait and see, will it still be raining? Will the dry weather have, and the sun will have finally come out? We saw that it didn't actually take too long for the track to dry because the rain was fairly heavy for the majority of the session, and the Inters were relatively competitive early on, but it wasn't until the end of the session where we saw the time starting to tumble. I've just heard in my ear that it is going to be dry, so we will be seeing some flat out racing in this sprint. Or maybe it's not dry. We'll have to wait and see if it's just the intermediate tyres. We'll see how that dynamic works, and it might shake up the order a little bit because often the case is the fastest drivers in the dry are not always the fastest drivers in the wet.
Yeah, so driving in the wet does require a different set of skills. I can only really talk about go-karting here, but driving in the wet is an entirely different experience of driving in the dry. It's a lot more mental. There's a lot more mental toll than it is physical. You've really got to be thinking about where you're placing the car. Thinking about wet lines, thinking about where the grip is, and thinking about where the grip isn't. You can't be driving dry lines on a wet track. Otherwise, you just hit the rubber and you will spin instantly. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how many people are taking these wet lines, dry lines. Just trying to see, if people have also gone for different setups as well. Because I've been reading that Joe and RWB are thinking about going for different setups here. Trying to accommodate for the dry, try and accommodate for the wet. It's going to be quite interesting to see, who's going to be on the right setup at the right time. Because all of a sudden you could see that somebody on the wet setup might have a little bit more downforce and won't be able to make it up in the straights, but then make it up in the corners. We saw it in Las Vegas where I think it was Geek who had a very low downforce setup and was able to pull out a gap quite easily against I think Aria with DRS behind him, even though he was just running a rather low downforce setup. So we could see a similar thing turn out here.
Yeah, it will be fascinating to see what the drivers have prioritised and who will come out on top in that, because Cameron Surley could have been running a full wet weather setup. I doubt it, because he's usually that far ahead of everyone else, and Silverstone is usually a pretty decent track. We have 5 lights ahead of the drivers though. That was quick. It is lights out and away we go for the sprint race in Silverstone. We've got an Alfa Romeo that looks like it's jumped the start. Well, what is going on here? I think the race has had a few issues. Lewis Hamilton, Hungary 2021 moment, and it is only 80 that is leading us away. Everybody else I think is still on the grid. We'll have to wait and see. Is Cameron Sell, who, well, I think we're going to have a restart here. Something catastrophic has gone on off the start, because 87 seconds clear. I think AD disconnected very early on in the session. There we see it at the bottom of the screen, migrating host, and everybody is well, I mean, it's car parks at the exit of the loop section. We are going to have a restart, which is not ideal. This is some very interesting synchronized off-roading from all of our AI drivers here. I hope this is real life as the Williams of Joe goes flying in there. And it is now Matty who has assumed the lead. This is great to commentate on, because we literally have no idea what is going on. Joe up into 8th place. Brilliant start. I can't believe we're still watching this. I think we should probably get into the new lobby and, start again.
That interesting. Everyone's just ghosting and going through each other, just driving these. I hope it's the same weather conditions, to be honest, because it does look to be quite interesting. Maybe some rain comes up later on.
What's hugely disappointing, actually, is that AD obviously had to leave, which means we could have got 1 lobby rather than 2. That is a huge shame. We could have got it done in the end, unfortunately not, and it will just be 12 drivers going for the top 10 places. So big points up for grabs for everyone. While we've got a little interlude from that slight technical glitch we saw a few moments ago, let's have a look at what special effects do to help people in the gaming community.
Nobody likes being left out. That's why Special Effect are helping people with physical disabilities to play video games. But this isn't just about having fun. The gaming setups we create are personalised, so people can play to the very best of their abilities. And that opens the door to inclusion and independence, confidence and creativity. Help us level the playing field and create more magical gaming moments. Because it's everyone's turn to play.
A brilliant cause, I'm sure you will agree. What isn't brilliant is what we can see on our screens, because we have absolutely no idea what's going on. 80's dropped to the back of the pack. Cameron Sell's currently running in 8th place. I don't know if that's real or not. We'll have to wait and see if we can get some confirmation about what's going on. It's Matty leading from Geek, Iceboy and Tom Hug. Look to be, are we 3 wide just behind this little group into Magus? But well, 4 wide nearly with a big train of cars. Cluster battling over the final podium place. And then we've got a scrap going on between Joe, Alpha and Cameron Sell. This is a big train going on. Are we going to see an overtake? I don't know if this is the real drivers doing this, going up into Stowe between Iceboy and Tom Hug. The Aston Martin's going to try and swing it around the outside. The curb is not going to help the Mercedes. Just enough room left on the left-hand side for Tom Hug, who's going to continue to fight this very hard. Cameron Sell comes out of nowhere, goes through everyone like he's got the Mario Kart star, and gets up into 3rd place ahead of all of this queue, as everyone seems to sort of find their real-life position. Got no idea what's going on. Geek and Matty continue to debate 1st and 2nd. Cameron Sell now back up into 3rd. We thought it was close between all of those drivers. Tom Hug has now somehow, in about 3 corners and 5 seconds, pulled 1.3 seconds over that group.
I am incredibly confused with what's going on right now. This is, people are backing up back and forth. A couple of people are ghosting there. We saw Tom Hug ghost against Iceboy, then Cameron Sell goes across all 3, pretty much all 5 of them at one point. Geek and Matty just keep swapping places now. This is just pandemonium right now. This is not what we were expecting. But you know what? If it makes for some good racing, Cameron Sell on the back of Matty and Geek coming through into Cop's corner. Maybe we can get some more action from these 3 as we come through.
Well,
Geek.
you can see the desyncing that's going on.
There's some
Carousel
desync,
flying through everyone. He's so much faster. It's like he's got the bullet bill from Mario Kart as he flies through Lagos, Beckett and Chapel about 4 times the speed of everybody else. And he probably will take the lead here. We saw a nice battle between Geek and Matty. Don't know if that happened in real life either. We'll have to wait and see. I think for our producer, what could solve the issue is leaving and rejoining, but don't take my word for that. Flying through Cops we go with Cameron
Literally
as he goes through Geek. Brilliant overtake. He doesn't need to go around the outside. Just goes straight through. It's like we're going on a bear hunt. But yeah, we're on lap 3. We're about to start lap 4 of the sprint race. No idea if this is the real order or not. Cameron Sale seems to be flying forward, though, and is much quicker than everybody else. No change there, of course. But no, I mean, if someone wants to fill us in, we'd be hugely grateful.
I've got a feeling there might be a case of a couple of these guys are AI, a couple of these guys are real, because if there's some ghosting like this, then there are some issues of. Okay then, if this is the case, you know, we on the spectator side, we're just seeing nothing really, and none of this is I would say is actual racing right now, because this is all just things that are happening past, present, and future.
Well, I think it may have sorted itself out. Cameron Sale was obviously in the lead from the start and is now 3.2 seconds clear of Geek and Matty. So that might explain why he was going so much quicker than everybody else. And I think we should just treat this as the real race. Up the inside into Cops we go with Alpha side by side with Ice Boy. This could get a little bit messy. Somehow they keep it clean. The McLaren takes over 6th place from the ailing Mercedes, who's on the medium compounder tyres. We've got a nice decent split actually. Few drivers on the mediums, the majority favouring those red striped soft compound tyres. Got a big train going from 5th place, BUSR all the way down into 9th. Joe continuing to struggle. The form is just not there for the Williams and former championship protagonist. There's a battle going on between Woolly Blobs and Assassin up in towards Stowe. We saw some decent racing between Tom Hug and Ice Boy. We don't know if it was real or not. The Ferrari slams that door firmly shut on the McLaren and holds on to 8th place.
You know, it's hopefully now it's actually all filtered themselves out. Joe now diving into the pits. Not really sure what's going on there. Probably some front wing damage there.
Well, no front wing at all, I think is the...
Yeah, I can't see a front wing actually for that matter. So I think you had a little bit of contact there with one of the other drivers, probably Aria or Assassin for that matter, around that area. But it is now Cameron Sale leading with 5 seconds against Geek and Matty. Geek and Matty in their own little world right now. Quite a loft from Tom Hug and BUSR, but still quite the way back from Cameron. So these two guys, they're going to be battling out for the P3 for that second first row slot on the grid for the main Grand Prix here, coming through Luffield right now, and we're just going to see how this is going to pan out. I hope that we don't have the same issues, but now we got Matty and Geek. Matty trying to look around, try to see where he can make a move here. Geek not really having much of it, just trying to take any kind of line that he can, defensive or otherwise. But it just looks like they're just going to be backing away from each other. Ice Boy and Woolly Blobs now getting a little bit too close for comfort there, but they slotted back in quite nicely, just ahead of Assassin. Assassin could have made a little bit of a move there and maybe tried to disrupt Woolly Blobs' plan there of getting a bit further ahead of Ice Boy there, but now Matty now closing the gap to Geek now, coming through to finish their 6th lap of this sprint race here at Silverstone. But the gap is remaining pretty much constant now between these two drivers, as Cameron Sale is pounding out pretty much a second lap at this point now, as these three drivers.
Considerably more than a second a lap. He's already 10 seconds clear, and we're on lap number 6, so Cameron Sale might still be decent. The whole point of the star in Mario Kart is that it brings you back towards the pack and doesn't then propel you 5 laps clear of everybody else. So Cameron Sale is pulling out as Aria's retired. I'm not sure what's gone on there. Looks like the Red Bull has stopped going through Farm Curve. No safety car deployed. Joe will be hugely disappointed by that. Won't be given the opportunity to catch up to the back of the pack. Geek and Matty continue to push each other round the middle sector, and they are still line astern in 2nd and 3rd. Somehow nearly 12 seconds. I mean, Cameron Sale, if this is real, this is outstanding pace from the championship leader. What a way to wrap it up it would be, considering any calamities that go on behind. This battle for 7th, 8th and 9th continues to rage on between Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren. Assassin hoping to assassinate the two drivers' hopes ahead of him of finishing ahead of that McLaren car. Ice Boy, though, leading the leading the Ferrari and getting too excited. Too many words trying to be said in the space of not very many seconds, but it is still Iceboy ahead. But I think that is going to change. We could be in the complete opposite order by the time we reach Stowe, because look at the exit that Woolly Blobs has got coming out of Chapel Curve. Going to move to the right-hand side. Didn't really defend it, Iceboy. Stayed over to the left. And I think it's going to concede this position, raising the white flag and rolls out the red carpet for the Scarlet Red Ferrari. And up into 7th place goes Woolly Blobs. Could be 2 places lost in the space of just 2 corners. Assassin sniffing around the rear wing of that Mercedes, but stays behind for the time being.
Yeah, Assassin and Iceboy now. Iceboy's now got to think about both front and back, where Woolly Blobs seemed quite content with just fighting Iceboy there to get P7. But now Iceboy now thinking about how he's going to be defending from Assassin, because Assassin does look to be rather pacey now, trying to be looking all around that gearbox, trying to find any kind of mistake that Iceboy makes. They're probably just trying to force a mistake from Iceboy now, trying to see if he can go any bit around here. Joe sets the fastest lap here.
That's very impressive considering he's coming through club corner and hasn't actually completed the lap.
That's a very good point, actually. Very impressive considering that Cameron Stoll's on the board now. I'm putting out a 15-second gap, so he pretty much put out 6 seconds in 1 lap, I think.
Round of applause, my friend.
I am very confused. I'm very confused at what's going on now, because I feel like this isn't how it's meant to be going down, because Cameron Stoll does not put out a 16-second gap within the span of 7 laps here. But you never know. Maybe this man has just found some amazing pace, and Iceboy almost being collected there by Assassin, but Assassin just holding back through Maggots and Beckett's here, and now going to be coming down onto the second DRS straight of the Silverstone circuit. No DRS for Assassin, looks like.
RWB's taken the lead. What a brilliant move from the Mercedes. Currently running, or was running, in 11th place. Exceeded track limits, but obviously cut the whole track to get up into the lead. Cameron Selby hugely devastated. Pulled out an 18-second margin over Geek and Matty, squabbling behind, but loses it from the Mercedes that flies past everyone. Brilliant stuff.
I'm so confused. I am so confused. How did he just do that?
Can we check the race director just to see what notes the lap down? If for our producer, if you pause the game and go into the race director and then click on the name, Joe sets another fastest lap without actually crossing the line. If we click on RWB and then I think it should come up with view lap times and scroll all the way down to the bottom, well, it doesn't actually say anything. He only completed the first sector though, so obviously the timing chart here is correct, but the game struggling to recognise what's going on. 1/10 of a second, and now it fixes itself. What a big mistake from RWB, dropping down into 11th in the space of 1 corner.
Oh no!
20 seconds is still the margin out in front, though.
What? We need to restart on this. We need a full restart on this game before we go for the race here, because this does seem to be quite chaotic. I thought it went from 9 out of 9 laps to 8 out of 9 laps as RWB just gets punted straight down the order. What a catatonic mistake from RWB getting all the way down there. But now we've got a little bit of racing here.
It's a Mercedes 1-2 as we see this battle for what was 5th place. Now turns into 7th between Alpha and Baz. It's going side by side through Stowe. We cut away to RWB and we cut back to Baz, who holds on to 7th place. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the actual race order is when everybody crosses the line to hopefully complete 9 laps, although judging by the way this has gone, they could have only completed 8 or maybe 25 in that time, because Cameron Searle is now 22 seconds clear of Geek in 2nd place, who continues to keep a pretty stable gap ahead of Matty of 1.5 seconds. Managed to drop the Williams by a couple of tenths. We've got some ghosting going on. Aid will be delighted with his AI picking up a decent handful of points for him, currently sat in 10th place, although could drop behind Assassin, who was right in the gearbox of who was it? Well, it was RWB, was it? Yes, a few moments ago. The 2 Mercedes in formation, the silver arrows painted in that carbon black paint, currently leading the way comfortably. 51 seconds the advantage. RWB obviously won't win this race, 1 because he's not actually in 2nd place, and 2 because he's got a 3-second time penalty for that big corner cut we saw earlier. No idea what lap we're on, no idea what the order currently is. It fixed itself again as the 2 Mercedes are now squabbling over 10th and 11th, but I think this is Cameron Searle coming round the final couple of corners, so if it is, we'll congratulate him on what has been an incredibly impressive win. Nearly 3 seconds a lap faster than everybody else that he's trying to battle. 25-second advantage. He's going to come around the final corner across the line on our screen. Geek ends up only 7/10 back, so we do actually know how close everybody was. Matty was 2.8 seconds behind, and then Iceboy jumps up into 5th. Crazy action on the last lap, of course.
Wow. If I could describe this sprint race in one word, it would be shambolic.
I would describe it as invisible.
I don't think we've had. I don't think we've actually had a sprint race. We've had some cars on the track that are ghosting and out of position massively. Because that would have been a very good fight to see. Geek on Cameron Sol there, to be honest. If it wasn't for the fact that we couldn't actually observe it, and Cameron Sol was actually 20 seconds ahead when he was actually only 0.7 seconds ahead.
Would have been hugely exciting. If we can stay in the game quickly, though, just to recap what the final order was, because obviously we had absolutely no idea when it was going on. So we can just have a quick rundown of what actually happened on everybody else's screen.
And that is a sprint race win for Cameron Sol, taking the top step there, collecting a couple of points for his name, and Geek and Matty coming in to finish off the podium positions. That was I don't know how much I can comment on that, to be honest.
I've managed to develop curtains in the space while we've been watching that. That's a crazy little trick that's gone on there. Apologies for everybody watching. Hopefully we tried to make it as enjoyable as possible. It was very difficult to commentate on a race that wasn't actually happening. We were watching something completely different. We might as well have been watching MotoGP for all the good that did. But yeah, it was Cameron Sol who won, unsurprisingly, but wasn't quite 25 seconds. It was 7/10 ahead of Geek, and Matty was a further 3 seconds back. Can't remember what the order was behind because we only saw it for about 5 seconds at the end of the race, and it was completely different to the order that we're watching for the whole of it. So fingers crossed that we don't have the same level of desyncing for the main race. Otherwise, that's going to make the commentary very, very difficult indeed.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't wish that up on my worst enemy there. That was, we couldn't really see what was going on there. Hopefully, it should sort itself out with this change of lobby here. As now we've got, hopefully being tied by our F1 race organizer, it should fix itself for the main race. So we'll see.
I wouldn't put a lot of money on that going down, to be honest.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. It'll have to be that. Yeah, I'd like to see that come out now, to be honest. It should actually. I think it's a couple of weeks, yeah.
Yeah, game gets announced in a couple of weeks' time, and then it gets released, I believe, is it the 1st of June? So for our summer series, I think we'll be on that game, if I'm correct with my predictions there, which could be very exciting. We'll hopefully reset the pecking order like the rule changes were supposed to do in 2022, although it didn't stop Red Bull and Max Verstappen winning every single race until the end of time. Looking forward to 2035, when Max Verstappen has only failed to win 5 of the previous 200 Grand Prix. So look forward to that, F1 fans. We're in for a great couple of years going ahead, with Verstappen winning every single race this year and probably next year and probably for the next 5 years until he gets completely bored.
You never know. It could be the case that he just goes into WEC, which I see him doing. I see him going into WEC with Alonso. I'd like to see that.
That would be a very funny partnership, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's been said before that Max would only really consider doing endurance race, WEC, if he was racing with Alonso as his teammate, because those two do have a very good relationship off track.
Got to have a third driver though, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, it could just be like, I don't know, De Vries is in endurance right now, and Max and De Vries have a good relationship. Obviously.
Well, I know that Max and certain Lando Norris have commented how they'd like to be teammates at some point in the future. So
that is true. They are also very good good friends off track as well. Also, one thing, if F124 being released on the 28th of May, so we will be seeing that very, very soon indeed. We'll see how it goes with that. Hopefully, no desyncing issues like this time, and hopefully soon we will have our lobby ready. I'm not sure what the status of.
I mean, if anyone wants to have a status update on the situation of not just the game, but the well-being of all the drivers involved, because we had no idea what went on. Something catastrophic could have happened. Should we talk about some positive things, though? Let's talk about Silverstone. Do you have any memorable moments of the British Grand Prix? You said you were there in 2017 and that it was a very good race to watch. Probably not if you were wearing red, because Ferrari had a typical Ferrari ending to that race where both drivers got punctures and finished. I think Raikkonen may have kept his podium and Vettel was 7th, maybe? Oh, no, we're not. We're getting ready to go. cut the whiff waff. We're getting ready to go with 5 red lights. This is the grid from Carousel and Geek. Lights out, and away we go. Looks to be a good start for the Ferrari on the left-hand side, but it's actually Matty that flies away in that blue Williams around the outside. He's going to try and swing it. Contact further back. We've got a Haas of BUSR going backwards into turn number 1. Not sure who he made contact with, but that penalty in the top of our screen probably confirms that it's RWB. Geek, terrible start, dropping down into 4th, struggling to get those hard tyres working. 5th, and that could be 6th because the 2 McLarens are right in there as well, tucked up underneath the rear wing of the Mercedes Geek. But it's Cameron Searle that leads. But Matty, this could be his only opportunity to try and lead a race this evening. Is he going to try and go around the outside? No. Another position maybe being lost for Geek. Those hard tyres really not firing up. You can see it looks pretty cold out there. Is Assassin going to try and swing it around the outside? Joe trying to make up places for a poor qualifying and sprint race as well. Here we go though. Is this going to be our Verstappen-Hamilton moment? No, because Matty has flown past Cameron Searle, doesn't even need Cop's corner, and it's into the lead of the race as Geek falls down into 6th, probably 7th. Here comes Alpha. We're going to see side by side into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. This is the worst start he probably could have imagined. It is 7th place. Joe now going to try and get involved as well. These two have had argy-bargy over the years, and Joe's going to swing it past. The Williams is up into 7th. Geek could be down into 9th. He started on the front row. Remember this. He's going to try and get a place back though. We could be seeing 3 wide up the hill into Stowe corner. Joe has managed to confirm 7th place. Ari was trying to swing it around the outside. The Red Bull does get ahead of Geek, but I think Geek is trying to fight it back.
Geek getting an absolutely horrible start there. Cameron Searle also on the hard tyres, but making it work a lot better than Geek could there. Probably a little bit of contact, actually, I'll probably have to say. I'm not sure if he's lost a front wing or anything, but now we've got some rain on the track now. Matty's hitting the fastest lap, but that means nothing in this race now as now we've got some rain. People are going to be diving into the pits, but they now have to manage pretty much the entirety of the Silverstone circuit to get back into the pits and slap on those green-rimmed intermediate tyres, and now we're probably going to see a couple of people spinning out. But that said, you are quite far from the barrier in this track, so we could just see them just dipping it in and recovering themselves rather well. A bit further back there, we could see Assassin and Iceball just going side by side there. Joe also looking at the back of them, but Joe's getting a little bit twitchy there as expected from this rain. But everyone else is going to be feeling the same thing. Alpha, oh my goodness there, sorry. Assassin and Iceboy, they're going almost side by side through. They don't want to be racing at all right now, otherwise it's just going to be absolute complete and utter carnage from these guys. As the rain starts to...
Look at the spray!
As the rain starts to barrel it down even more, everyone's going to be thinking about those intermediate tyres. The pit's going to be absolute chaos now. There's no way anyone's going to be standing out.
This must have been a completely unexpected rain shower, because otherwise, why would people have started on the hard compound tyres if they knew they were going to have to be changing onto the Inters after just a couple of laps? The 2 Ferraris have absolutely Ferrari'd it. Geek down into 9th place. We've got Aria out of the session. Is that a crash in the pit lane? We've got a bit of a pile-up and a safety car to boot as well. Iceboy stays out. That's going to be a bit of a mistake. You can see that Red Bull piled into the Armco on the right-hand side, missing both of its front wheels. What has gone on there? We'll have to wait and see what comes of it later on. The safety car is out, probably justified as well. This has been, going back to the Ferraris, typical Ferrari strategy. Geek on the hard tyres, started raining 30 seconds into the race. Going to have to get rid of those hard tyres, which only saw him lose places from 2nd down into what was, I think, as low as 9th at one point. Brilliant start for Joe. Cameron Searle will be disappointed to have lost the lead, but has actually managed to get it back. Front wing change for RWB. That was probably contact with Aria, if it was. That's the second bit of contact that RWB has had. Rejoins into the path of Willie Blobs and will take over last place. Now we can breathe. Iceboy's been not helped out by this at all, staying out on those hard compound tyres. We'll go to the back of the pack. The 2 Mercedes will end up last and second last, which isn't too realistic from their 2024 performance if you speak to Lewis Hamilton or Toto Wolff. Cameron Searle managed to get the lead back, though.
I would be questioning that move, but you never know. Maybe you're just trying to extend that safety car period as much as possible. That said, RWB with that wing change from his contact with BUSR, which sent BUSR out off the track there and from turn 1. But yeah, everyone now on the intermediate tyres, and we are pretty much back to where we started with where we picked off from in qualifying. The sprint race coming in just not really sure what's going on there, but now we've got Joe in P6, just trying to make his way around these corners, up 6 places along with Assassin as well. These 2 guys have always been a bit, but Joe, Geek, and Assassin have always been a bit touch and go over each other. Joe and Geek obviously having quite a bit of history. I'm thinking back to Spa here, where Joe picked up a 5-second time penalty for quite an aggressive barge against Geek at turn 4 into Lecom. Oh, no, not Lecom, sorry.
You've got to think about Mexico as well from the Winter Series. They spent the final 5 or 6 laps knocking 10 bells out of each other through the first sector. We remember that pretty well as well. Your first race, I believe it was.
Yes, that was indeed, yeah.
A memorable one for you to start with.
Now Ice Boy, now into the pits as well, putting on the intermediate tyres, as he should have done a lap ago now, coming out. Going to be last though. RWB into the pits as well. Front wing damage as well for this guy? Yeah, it can't be, surely.
This would be the third bit of contact that RWB has had in 3 laps. Ice Boy probably stayed out because he didn't want to queue behind his teammate. You can see the Mercedes crew weren't ready. There's no front wing change, and it's another set of inters going on. I would have thought maybe putting wets on, trying to predict more rain coming. So an interesting one there. The 2 Mercedes, though, will take up their positions in 11th and 12th. Geek has somehow managed to get up into 6th place again with all of the carnage that's gone on. BUSR, who went into turn 1 backwards, is now in 8th. So that's gone pretty nicely, all things considered, for the Haas driver as well. 80's AI continues to circulate fairly nicely in 9th place. And then Woolly Blobs, who was very competitive last week and in Baku as well, currently only 10th. And that's where the second Ferrari started. So that'll be disappointing. Cameron Sell, though, got the lead back in the pit stops. Matty must have been held by a couple of drivers. And then it is Tom Hug ahead of Assassin and Joe, who has had a difficult couple of seasons on this game. But the old fire still burns strong. Started 12th, currently in 5th.
Yeah, the man does have some pace in him, but he's just he is prone to quite a few accidents here and there. Obviously, whenever he picks up a podium, every time he's picked up a podium this season, he's lost it due to penalties. So we will see how he performs here. Obviously in P5 right now, looking to be in a pretty good spot to make up some more moves with Assassin and Tom Hug there as well, right in front of him. Tom Hug, I would say, is probably a little bit of a fish out of water right now. Not where you'd expect for him to be, but that said, it is a very commendable effort, being in P3 and surviving the carnage that was the first few laps there. So, you really do have to give it to him, really sticking it where it counts. But obviously it is Cameron Sell right now who's taken the lead once again from Matty. Matty making it work, obviously with Cameron Sell being on the hard tyres on the start. But that has all come to a dead halt now with this safety car up. Should hopefully be underway after this lap, as RWB needs to be catching up to the back of this pack now. So yeah, we're going to be seeing another lap of the safety car out here, and just seeing how we go from here now. Well, you don't have to pit with whenever it's a wet weather condition, so we could see people running these tyres out for as long as possible here.
I mean,
which could make sense if it doesn't subside the rain, that is.
That's a hell of a stint. And the way that this game works with the advantage you get on new tyres, I think we will be seeing people come into the pits, if not for another set of inters, probably for the full wets, because the spray has picked up quite a lot. It's looking slightly more reminiscent of qualifying. We don't know whether the rain is going to drop off again. We'll go back to slicks. That would be quite the eventful outing, and would certainly sum Silverstone up very well. Has it stopped raining?
I would. No, yeah.
If we go on board with one of the drivers, we'll be able to see it on the halo. It is still raining. Oh, yes, it is still raining. Although it could be spread.
I think it's drizzling a lot less than. I think it's spitting a lot less than it was when it started. So we could see some people thinking about switching on to the soft tyres a little bit later, a little bit earlier than they'd probably want to be honest. But these sort of intermediate tyres have got to be. So what people have got to start thinking about, maybe firing them up just a little bit more, as the safety car has to be coming in this lap here, as RWB has finally caught the back of the pack now. So we will be seeing some racing action at the end of this lap.
Before we do get there, I do just want to pick up on your Tom Hug comment, because I think that is maybe a little bit harsh, because Tom Hug very often is one of those drivers sniping at the top group to try and pick up the pieces if there are any calamities that befall them. And it is usually, as the safety car is going to be in this lap, Tom Hug does usually pick up a podium every season, maybe. I think that's what usually goes on, finds himself picking up a podium position. So not totally out of position. And with Joe and Geek next to each other, expect some fireworks to go on in the opening couple of laps there. podium still very much on for the Aston Martin, who was obviously very quick in qualifying and the sprint as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Going back through the results for this season, anyway, he did pick up a P5 in Belgium actually after a pretty decent.
Cameron gone.
And Cameron has now already left the pack behind there. As Matty playing catch up against Cameron, already dropping 7 tenths to the AlphaTauri, 8 tenths now, 8.5 tenths. It was 9 tenths. Cameron Stell's really gotten these intermediate tyres up and running straight away. No DRS for these guys for this first lap. Matty trying to make as much of it up as possible. A little bit of a yellow flag there in sector 1 and 3 there. I think this will be cleared up and we are good to go now. Already putting up a 3. RWB taking a 5-second time penalty for ignoring yellow flag. Quite interesting for that.
I caught it. I think there was contact between the AI of AD, Woody Blobs and Iceboard going through the final corner, and RWB maybe picking up a penalty for that. Cameron Sterl, it might be the earliest safety car restart I've ever seen, but it worked to absolute perfection. Put 1.5 seconds between himself and Matty behind, who was left to deal with the Aston Martin of Tom Hug. And then comes Assassin, Joe and Geek, who will be squabbling very hard. You would imagine slight gap forming between Alpha and the group ahead as Baz are all over the back of that second McLaren car. This is Joe who are on board with made up 12, started in 12th, made up 7 places from their starting position and is now on the back of Assassin. Could we be seeing a return to the podium places for Joe? He's got to be looking in his mirrors a little bit though, because that bright scarlet Ferrari car right on the back of the Williams. A legendary battle, of course, Ferrari versus Williams. We've got a McLaren in there as well to boot also. But yeah, I expect this will go on for the next couple of laps. No DRS, of course, so it's going to have to be slipstream and battery. Geek very close to the back of Joe. Might be running slightly lower wings. What do you think about a dive up into Stowe? Not quite close enough and stays in 6th place.
Joe maintained that P5 position there against Geek and Alpha as well, putting in some effort to try to keep Joe at bay now. But these guys have got to be running different setups. All of them have got to be thinking about how much wing they're taking on. All these guys in the pit stop probably just put on a front load of a boatload of front wing there as well to try to keep that front end at bay at this circuit. Even though if you do get a lot of oversteers, Geek goes incredibly wide there. Couldn't really see what corner that was. Turn
through
3,
Village
actually,
in the loop, through those couple of corners, trying to find the grip and trying to find a gap to try and challenge for 5th place and what will eventually become 4th, because these two looking increasingly quicker than the McLaren of Assassin in front. Joe with a little look to the inside, thinks better of it, doesn't want to send it up the inside. We've got a Mercedes off the road. I think that's RWB, who has had a pretty catastrophic weekend so far. Will drop to the back of the pack, continue to struggle. Was brilliant last week in Singapore, struggling to replicate that this week. Joe has managed to drop Geek a little bit behind, 6 tenths now, 7 tenths the gap between 5th and 6th, right underneath the McLaren going through Copse corner, but stays behind for now, not able to swing it around the outside as we saw Cameron Sell and Matty doing earlier on. I think Tom Hug's been off the road though, failed to keep it within the white lines, and that leaves him under pressure going through Magus, Beckett's and Chapel, and this looks like it's going to be a 4-car scrap for that final spot on the podium.
Tom Hug now being reeled in by Assassin with that little excursion that he had, but now that brings Joe, Geek and Assassin all into that contention for the last step on the podium, as Matty and Cameron Sell seem to be rather comfortably ahead here. Cameron Sell with a 2.8 second gap from Matty, now 3 seconds actually for that matter, but now we've got Joe and these three have just been on it just constantly, pretty much. Well, I wouldn't say even just this race, throughout the entire season for that matter. As Assassin and Joe always seem to butt heads against each other. Joe going a little bit wide there, definitely not what he wants there. Now I've got a yellow flag in sector 3. Not sure, really sure.
RWB retiring in the pits, decides that luck very much not on his side. Hasn't got the 4-leaf clover in his pocket this evening and will return to the pits to retire. Hugely unfortunate for a driver that has so much potential and in the past has been extremely quick, but it will be 12th place and a very few points for the Mercedes. Joe still looking at the rear wing of that McLaren, glued to the back of it, although Assassin will probably be thinking about maybe trying to get a move on and challenging Tom Hug for 3rd place. Out in front though, 3.7 seconds the advantage. Matty cannot live with this incredible pace that Cameron Sell demonstrates week after week and is left to fight for scraps behind. It feels a little bit like real life, of course, with Max Verstappen. Joe a lot closer to the back for Assassin, coming up to Copse this time, always pushing him through the apex of the corner, but not close enough to make a move, and will sit behind once again, going through the Magnus, Beckett's and Chapel complex.
Yeah, Joe, oh my, almost losing it there.
Yeah, Assassin was a little bit offline, and that gave Joe the tiny inkling that he needed to maybe try and force that Williams alongside and get into a position where he could take the place. He's once again very close to Assassin, choosing not to go defensive. Probably a smart decision because it would have encouraged Joe to try and swing it around the outside of Stowe Corner. Still very close to the back of the McLaren. Is this his opportunity into the slow Vale and Club section? No, it is not. Geek probably getting frustrated behind them as well. Out of position to where he's been most of this season, usually residing in those podium places. Currently down in 6th after that terrible first lap on the hard compound tyres.
Yeah, Geek now almost on the back of Joe, but Joe's just trying to hope that Assassin makes any kind of mistake now, as he's just clambering on the back of that McLaren there. But Tom Hug also still within this. If there was some DRS here, all of these guys here would be getting quite a nice helping of it. But that said, it's going to be mostly ERS deployments and just pure pace here, as we're trying to see if we can get any kind of good runs through any of the straights here. But it is just met with medium speed corner after medium speed corner. Joe almost touching the back of Assassin there, but he gets a pretty good run and a pretty good slipstream down into the Copse corner now. He goes going side by side with Assassin, almost collects him there, but he backs out quite a bit. And now Geek is now thinking about the move. But he's also backing out of it now. As coming through Maggots and Beckett's, it is quite tricky to try go side by side through, especially in the wet.
Joe looking very confident, seeming to have that swagger back that's been missing the last few weeks. This could be the opportunity much closer to the McLaren. This time Assassin elects to go defensive, and that invites the Williams to go to the left-hand side of the track, try and swing it around the outside. Goes a little bit late on the brakes, invites the Ferrari of Geek to have a little look up the inside. Was there contact? Definitely a wobble for Joe on the exit. This time using some ERS to try and send it around the outside of Assassin into the final complex of corners. Not a lot of space on the right-hand side. You have to keep it very nice and tidy. There's Geek. We've had a terrible camera angle. They're 3 wide into the final corner. It can't go well. Somehow they're all facing the right direction. Assassin being pushed off the road by 2 drivers trying to send it up the inside. Geek opportunistic stuff. Wasn't the cleanest of moves in the world that you'll ever see, and the grudge match continues between himself and Joe. But the Ferrari, who started on the front row, dropped all the way down to 9th, is up into 4th place, but I think we'll have to contend with a very racy Williams sat behind.
Tom Hug, that dropped them right behind Tom Hug, though, as Tom Hug's now got a 4.5 second lead, 2.5 second lead against Geek and the rest of the field there. But now Geek getting just a little bit too, getting his shoulders out a little bit too much there on the last corner and almost forcing Assassin into the barrier there. But Assassin keeping it really well on the track, and now Alpha's been into this contention as well, and also BUSR as well. Everyone is now picking up the pace here and is fighting for these fourth and 5th positions now, as we've got quite a good group here trying to battle it out for these battle it out at the end of this race. But that said, we've got 26 laps in total. There's 16 laps remaining. We're going to be seeing quite a few bits of action as time goes on. Probably people starting to think about going into the pits in a few laps' time. That would be. But yeah, as it stands right now, Cameron Stowe leading Matty and Tom Hug, with Geek and Joe rounding out the top 5.
Assassin, hugely unfortunate, was just used effectively as a pinball on the exit of the final corner as he dipped a wheel into the gravel. Nothing that he could do because he was just getting shoved out by the 2 competitors on the inside. And once again, we see Geek and Joe, 2 drivers whose BUSR series or legacies so often intertwined with each other and laced with controversy and controversial moments. And we've seen another one of them today, and I think we could see a couple more as they charge up towards the back of that Aston Martin of Tonghub. Both of them were thinking that a podium is very much an opportunity and a potential for them, but they're going to have to scrap it out very hard with that Aston Martin driver. They're leaving the 2 McLarens in their wake a little bit. 1.3 seconds now the gap between Joe and Assassin, and that will probably continue to extend.
Yeah, but now, now it's a race to the finish line. Now at this point, everyone's going to be thinking about what's when everyone's going to be pitting. People are going to be using a lot more of their tyres than others. Cameron Stowe's probably not using much of them at all right now. As he seems to be pretty good on the tyres, but it does seem that Matty's kind of living in a world of his own right now. as he just rather comfortably sitting in P2 as Tom Hug's not really putting up much of a fight, and but Geek has pulled back this deficit to Tom Hug now. Is now down to 1.3 seconds, down from 2.5 seconds. So we could be seeing a fight potentially in a couple of laps time for that matter. But it is currently the fact that Geek is still right behind Tom Hug, but now he's starting to slot within what would be DRS range if we had it. But hopefully, I think soon we could start seeing it if this big cloud subsides anytime soon.
The rain certainly does look like it's been easing off. We're not seeing the drops as frequently as we were early on. The spray has sort of stayed the same. You can see it is still raining, of course, so we're nowhere near the dry tyres. But if that does ease up, we could be seeing quite the sprint to the end on the soft compound tyres, you would imagine. That gap, like you said, between Tom Hug and Geek, starting to decrease by the second, just over 1 second now between them, as the two McLarens have been dropped. 2 seconds the gap between 5th and 6th now. But in a league of his own, as he so often is, Cameron Searle has won every race that he has finished this season. Las Vegas, the only blotch of what has been a sparkling record so far, leaving Matty firmly in no man's land. 8 seconds behind Cameron Searle, 5 seconds clear off Tom Hug. He's just got to bring it home in second place. Still fighting for second place in the Drivers' Championship as well, with Geek currently running in 4th, and the opportunity for both of them to be the vice champion, not what they would have been hoping for, but Cameron Searle, as it stands at the moment, and will probably continue to be on this game for the final couple of weeks in a league of his own.
Yeah, as it stands right now, by my very quick calculations, it does seem that Matty has significantly closed up that gap to Geek, and someone else has joined the lobby, but we will not worry about that at the moment in time.
Joe's off the road. Joe is off the road. Sorry to cut in there. Took a really weird line through Magnussen Beckett. I wonder if he was side by side with Geek, who's lost a couple of tenths of a second to Tom Hug. The gap is now 1.2. Joe now a second and a half back. Was that another moment of another flashpoint between those two drivers? Unfortunately, we weren't able to capture it because it seemed to happen so suddenly. Could have just been, of course, a very regulation mistake from Joe, but we'll have to try and do all that hard work again to catch up to the pair in front.
Well, it does seem like he's not really at risk of assassin right now. So if he does make another mistake, it's not going to be the end of the world. It's not going to be the end of the world for him in his fight for the third step on the podium here. But it does seem that Geek is putting out quite a decent margin against Joe and putting up behind the Aston Martin of Tom Hug now. But it does seem that people are starting to calm down a little bit and start to filter out against and start to work their way into the natural order here.
I wonder if there were twin mistakes for the two Williams drivers, because last time we spoke about it, which wasn't very long ago, Matty was 8 seconds off the lead and 5 seconds ahead of Tom Hug. That gap has come down to the Aston Martin and increased by nearly 2 seconds to Cameron Searle, who is lapping probably a second a lap quicker than everybody else at the moment. You'd think he's running traction control, the speed he's got in the rain. Obviously, he does not, but flying away out in front, got a lot of battery in his pocket as well. The battle for the final spot on the podium is probably going to be heating up in the next couple of laps, because Geek is now inside 1 second of Tom Hug and can start plotting his assault on the Aston Martin for that final spot on the podium. Joe, 1.8 seconds back. Has his pace gone? Has he overworked the tyres by having a bit of a slide and an excursion off the road? And that could be his charge for the podium done. Only half distance though.
Yeah, Tom Hug's probably going to be having
a wobble from Geek there. Sorry to cut in. Massive fishtail on the exit of Stowe. That could have been the Ferrari facing backwards like BUSR was on the opening lap. That was a bit of a brown pants moment for the current championship. What's the word for second in the championship? Co-leader? No, that would be joint leader. Not sure, but the driver that's second in the standings.
I mean, it wasn't as bad as Aria in the in qualifying there, where he had quite a big moment coming down through Stowe there. But that said, Geek just losing a little bit of confidence in the rear as he gets a little bit of another slide there through loop as well. If this track is changing a lot more than we think it is, maybe they're just getting caught up by the fact that there's more grip in certain places and less grip in others. But it does seem that he has dropped out of that 1 second 1 second interval behind Tom Hug now, and is now just trailing, just teetering on the edge of that that margin there. Is now broken into that 1 second, and now Iceboy and BUSR are also going to be going to probably be fighting each other very soon, as well as Alpha as well, probably going to be picked up into the equation as well. Iceboy on the back of BUSR here, coming through. Just came out of Copstone, coming into Maggots to start the famous Maggots and Beckett sequence of corners here. Iceboy, he's P9 right now. We've seen some good results from him in the past, but currently he is rising in the championship so far. He probably has a different name that's listed down on the championship. This is why we need consistent names being put through.
Yeah, it's been a blunderful day for the team from Brackley, but Iceboy trying to recover as many points as possible for the Silver Arrows, chasing BUSR and Alpha and potentially Assassin as well. It's going to be very difficult to get through all of those cars, especially when it is raining. 12.5 seconds nearly the gap out in front. This is crazy pace we are seeing. Potential esports pace, I must say, for Cameron Searle. So much quicker than everybody else. You wouldn't be surprised if that gap is close to 30 seconds if we're green flag to the end of the session, and the gap between Matty and Tom are continuing to stabilise around 5 seconds, and the gap behind also staying pretty constant between Geek and Joe. Assassin dropping off a little bit, and we could be having a 4-car scrap for 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th as the AI of 80 comes into the pits for what will be a brand new set of intermediate tyres, you would imagine, and that could be useful information for some of these guys.
Yeah, if the AI is starting to pit now, we're probably going to start thinking about other people starting to pit as well. But this little fight here for sixth and seventh could be quite interesting as this fight now starts to get underway here. You got a little bit of inter-team rivalry now as Alpha starts to claw at the back of Assassin and BUSR as well. I mean, obviously he's 1.1 seconds out of Alpha, but he's still within that hunting range. But as Iceboy right now, this Mercedes will just not let go of the Haas here, and it's just sticking like glue at the back of him.
Someone who will be probably getting stuck in is Joe. Caught up to the back of Geek, caught him by 1 second over the past couple of laps, and that battle royale that has continued over the last few years will probably continue for 4th and 5th. If I'm Woolly Blobs at this stage, probably a little bit out of position. You'd expect Woolly Blobs as Iceboy goes for a few adventures through the final couple of corners, struggling to get the car pointing on the straight and narrow. Woolly Blobs should probably come in for a new set of inters here, can maybe get a decent undercut on the drivers around him and try and salvage a few more points.
I think he's got a good space to bring it out in. Obviously, he's a minute clear of AD there, the AI of AD anyway, for that matter. But he's in a good spot, and it'll be some good data to have for the other drivers as well, to be honest, for that matter. I don't know if he wants to be helping them out like that.
Curse on him. Woolly Blobs is facing the wrong way, coming through Aintree. I am so sorry, but the Ferrari having a trip through the grass and an excursion off the circuit into the pickets on the left-hand side, and will very much stay in 10th place, and that undercut we were talking about certainly won't quite be effective enough to regain you 13 seconds. The battle for 7th, 8th and 9th hotting up. Alpha's dropped off the back of his teammate, now 1.5 seconds. BUSR and Iceboy continue to close up. The battle for the final podium spot is back on. Geek and Joe have both managed to get their tyres back into a decent working window. Geek under a second behind Tom Hug, and the gap between Geek and Joe just 1.1.
It's going to start heating up now, but obviously with everyone's tyres starting to fall off just a little bit more, it's going to be quite interesting to see who tries to take the fight and who tries to not. Try go for the undercut, or maybe stay out. Everyone here's deciding to stay out now. Maybe it's a case of whoever blinks first at this moment in time, because obviously AD isn't really much of an equation in this. It's just going to be whoever decides to pit first here. I just want to point out right now is that Cameron Searle was on the back of the AI of AD and is about to lap him, but that's a separate issue right now.
Geek, 4th, 7/10 off the podium, just under 10 laps to go, as this is opportunity to try and recover from the appalling first lap. Not a very good run through Aintree, struggling to get the power down, but will now be just seizing his moment, trying to work out as BUSR picks up a penalty that will relegate him behind Iceboy come the end of the race. But back to Geek, trying to work out where Tom Hug's slow, where he's got an advantage, and where he can try and make this overtake work, because of course no assistance from DRS, the slipstream not usually as powerful as well, because you struggle to get the power down on the exit of corners. He's got to try and pick his moment, and he's got to pick it fairly soon, because I think Joe in the Williams will cruise up to the back of these two.
Yeah, it's going to be the case of that. Joe's just going to try wait to see what any kind of opportunity they can get. He's obviously these two have had quite a history so far, but that said, he probably doesn't want to be replicating it and making any kind of sort of mistakes to it, as he is in a very good spot to be fighting for P3 on the podium, but on the podium right now. But that said, it is currently Geek closing this gap up to Tom Hug, using the slipstream to his fullest advantage here, and is currently 0.3 seconds behind Tom Hug in the Aston Martin. So, going to be quite an interesting battle to see how far up he can get behind this Aston Martin before he starts to think about going for a potential dive bomb. You never know; it could happen into Luffield. I think he could. I think he can do it. I think he can make a dive bomb into Luffield here.
Certainly some opportunities. Maybe the corner we've just gone through, Village, if you can get a really good run out of Abbey and through Farm Curve down into turn 3, you could make an opportunity for yourself. Gap half a second. Joe a further 8/10 behind. We are going to have a 3-car scrap for position number 3 on the podium. Tom Hug is going to be defending like a lion to hold on to this position for Aston Martin, and himself would be a very, very commendable effort if he does manage to do it. But Geek looking on the circuit, trying to find the drier patches on the track. A little bit of a wobble coming out through Woodcote though, and will mean he won't be able to use the overspeed to his advantage. Well, I say that. Look at how much he's closed up on the run up towards Copse. Obviously burning a lot of his ERS there. Didn't really work out because he had to check up before he got to the corner. This could be the opportunity for him though. Sniffing around the rear wing of that Aston Martin. The diffuser very big in his vision, but he can't find a way through for the time being at least.
He's Maggotts and Beckett's not really the place you want to be overtaken at.
This must be it.
Here, Copse, sorry, not Copse, Stoke, being an incredibly good place for an overtaken opportunity, and he just barely makes that work as Tom Hug is just on the back of that Ferrari and doesn't get any front wing damage, but he does lose the place out, and now Joe. Now Joe thinking about maybe making a move against Tom Huggins. Now he is in a prime opportunity here to start making moves against the Aston Martin.
I'm amazed they didn't crash going through Stowe. Tom Hug just stuck a little bit of an end plate up the inside, tried to keep the car alongside, was left not a lot of space at all. Somehow they both ended up staying, pointing in the right direction and kept it out of the barriers. Tom Hug though will try and stick to the back of that Ferrari to try and reclaim this spot on the podium. Got to be careful of Joe though, and it's going to be probably switching from attack to defence every couple of seconds with that Williams looming large in the rear view mirrors of that British racing green Aston Martin. Is this the opportunity? Down the inside we go. Not a lot of space for Joe to try and execute this move. It was a late lunge to the left hand side, but is Tom Hug going to manage to keep it on the inside of Luffield? They go side by side as they pass the grandstands on the left hand side. Joe's door is slammed shut. He's a little bit wobbly on the exit. Then they going to continue to be side by side up towards Copse corner. Joe's already gone side by side around this corner once in the Grand Prix. Not a lot of space on the inside for Tom Hug. They bang tyres at the apex. Tom Hug still trying to keep it alongside. They're fighting very, very hard, but I think the Williams is just going to overcome the Aston Martin. Yes, he does. Joe up into 4th place and hasn't, well, thankfully for him, hasn't lost too much time to Geek in front, which will be music to his ears as Tom Hug gets out of shape massively going through Chapel.
Side by side pretty much the entirety of Sector 2 there. Joe not giving an inch to Tom Hug there, but it did seem that Tom just had to back off there into Maggotts and Beckett's, otherwise he would be collected on the side of Joe and probably ended his race right there and then. Very high speed corners are not really the place you want to be trying to overtake, especially how tight it is around there as well, because you do go from one corner to the next very, very quickly. But Tom Hug still within this fight for P4. You can't count him out just because he's been overtaken. He easily gets some ERS deployment now, and storm past the likes of the Williams here. But he is dropping back about a couple of tenths to the back of Joe here. But Joe now setting his sights on that final podium position that Geek is currently holding on to. Just a quick comment as well. Cameron Salt pulling out a 21-second gap now. We haven't really been catching up with him as he's had a rather uneventful race once again. But you really can't fault the man right now for thinking about for having an uneventful race, because he has been just so dominant this season so far. I think we are seeing a potential esports driver in the making. I can't lie. I would actually like to see his pace relative to the esports driver, for that matter.
Would
I
be
think
very
quite
interesting
to see. Yeah,
very interesting.
Hopefully, hopefully the esports gets underway very, very soon, because I've been hearing a couple of whispers here and there about it being happening soon. Obviously, they did have one in November, and then it just went silent for a while.
Yeah, Matty, if he was quicker, then maybe his BUSR gets a little bit out of shape, could set Iceboy up for a move. Matty would only be saying there's just 21 seconds to go. Oh no, migrating host, what's gone on? Assassin's just disappeared.
Oh no.
The session. We're going to have desyncing again. We're going to have no idea what's going on at the end of this session. This is a catastrophe that has befallen us once again. I mean, Alpha's going slowly. The McLarens may have made contact, not sure. Yeah, Alpha's going way too slowly for that to be a human driving that car. Is going to lose out to Iceboy as well. So, folks, we're going to have to wait and see what happens when everybody crosses the line to finish the race to get our actual running order. Cameron Cell disconnecting on our screen at least, so hugely disappointing. Matty, he might be going quicker now. Wooly Blows picks up a penalty. Cameron Cell's managed to pull out an extra second while I've been speaking. It's no longer just 21 seconds to go. It's now 23.5 seconds.
I'm even though it did say Cameron Cell left the session, I'm going to assume that he's still racing, actually, for that matter. But
maybe he's on 100. Look, I mean, the car's ghosted. That's not him
ghosted,
driving.
yeah.
He must just be on 150% AI difficulty.
They just said, okay, this guy's put out a 20-second lead. He can keep that 20-second lead, and he does so rather well. For that matter as well, a little bit of a weather update. It does seem to be drying out quite a considerable amount now, as we do now have a wet line appearing quite well. Cameron Cell rejoining, probably going to be quite proud that he's actually extended his lead, for that matter, by a couple of seconds against Matty. But now we've got Tom Hug right on the back of Joe once again. Joe trying to defend this position, but he obviously wanted to be on the back of Geek here. But now now I guess Karma's kind of trying to bite him back now, as a Tom Hug on the back of Joe here coming through Stowe corner.
Yep, the pace seemingly not quite there. Tom Hug using all of that curb on the left-hand side to set himself up for the run up towards Vale and Club. Something's happened. Matty's into the pits, and Cameron Cell has DNF'd. Cameron said, oh no, it's a glitch, everyone. When you leave the session, you sometimes retire as you take back over. Cameron Cell.
Oh.
I don't know what everyone's going to... Matty's tyres have changed. The pit crews aren't there. We've had a complete desync again. We have no idea what's going on. Matty's just driven straight through the pits. He's just magically had his soft tyres put on the car. The intermediates have just been taken off with witchcraft as he rejoins on those they used to be super soft, now the red stripe tyres. Cameron Cell, if he has actually retired, we need to get some confirmation on this. If it's the bug retirement, I mean, the fact that he was 25 seconds clear, I'll start a petition for everyone to give him the win of this race, because I mean, no fortune teller is going to tell me that he was not going to get overtaken by the fact that he would have to lose 5 seconds a lap. It wasn't going to happen, everyone. Let's just give him the win and move on. Geek has now assumed it. Joe picks up a penalty for corner cutting. Tom Hug does it in sympathy as well, going through the same corner you would imagine. Well, it looked like it was on the exit of Tops. That would be a bit weird. Tom Hug's dropped behind BUSR. The race is completely gone now. Tom Hug's doing about 9 miles an hour going through Cop's corner. I think we could be in a bit of bother again, ladies and gentlemen. And yeah. Well, I mean, that's definitely not the speed you want to be taking coming out of Cops into the Maggots and Beckett section.
I'm interested to see if Matty is, willfully put on the soft tyres there. DRS enabled, so it looks like we're going to be drying up the track a lot more, but Matty has slapped on the...
Oh, no! This is the game having a few issues. Everybody stop. Buzzes into the lead in the Haas from about 9th place. He flies into the box for those red striped soft compound tyres. He's pulled out 28 seconds on the group behind him as well. What a turn of speed for the Haas driver. Geek's already on the soft tyres. He shouldn't be coming into the pits. They're going to have to check.
He could have took BUSR in the pit lane.
He's just flown back once again using witchcraft or something in between, maybe aliens, to get himself back in front. I think the game's trying to sort itself out. If we can get some live updates on maybe what's going to happen with Cameron Cell, because if he loses this victory down to a game bug, I think that's very, very unfair. Matty does reclaim the lead after coming in a lap early, but wow, he was certainly not that close to Geek when he came into the pits. If this is the actual gap, Geek with his 3-second penalty is obviously not going to pass him. But certainly the undercut not working. Matty probably coming in a lap too early. He is leading, But if we could get, if someone can give us some information maybe on what the plan would be with Cameron Sell's race, that would be ideal as we come into the closing stages.
I'm going to see if we can try find one of the drivers' POVs, or for that matter, like their Twitch stream or something, because it would be quite interesting to see if we do have how desynced this is currently.
Okay.
So
I've just seen the gap out in front.
Scouring.
It says that Geek's 28.3 seconds behind Matty. I mean, we can see the Williams in front of him. That's certainly not the gap. If you be our roaming reporter, trying to find out what's happening, and then I'll try and commentate on the fake action that's going on. Baz has closed up to the back of Alpha in the battle for what is currently 4th and 5th on our screens. We've got no idea if it's actually 4th and 5th. I think the Haas is probably going to try and make a move on the McLaren. You can see the Delta's very close. Should be a fairly straightforward overtake, you would imagine. Well, he's going through the McLaren. Alpha clearly not in the session. Fastest lap of the race goes to Matty. Is there? It looked like there was contact there, but they're ghosting through each other. So one of them's not in the session. I think it is the McLaren of Alpha. The gap between Matty and Geek has at least sorted itself out. Tom Hug now leads the race. Geek has lost his penalty that he had a few moments ago. Ice Boy now with the fastest lap, despite only being halfway round the lap. This is impossible. Tom Hug with a 10-second lead. Everyone's in completely different parts of the circuit. Take your pick. Do you have any updates for us?
This could be a new. I haven't. Oh,
well, we've lost our footage, so I think we will need to. Alex, if you can give us an update on what the actual positions are.
I am trying to find a stream right now. I'm going to be scouring this as much as possible, trying to see if we can find anything. That could be indicating of a.
Oh no, we're not. Oh. So we've got Tom Hug still 10 seconds in front. So we are going to have to use your kind of your perspective for us. It's not looking good, everybody. Oh, it sorted itself out. Tom Hug's dropped down into 8th place. I don't know how. Is he actually 8th place because he was running with Joe?
We don't really know. How it's gone.
We've managed to lose a lap as well, by the way, as Matty sets the fastest lap without crossing the line. Geek improves by a second. Joe goes even faster. We're about 30 seconds behind where we should be. Hopefully, if we do have a battle for the lead, everybody watching, don't take this for granted. Like, this is not what's actually happening. Tom Hug is not 63 seconds ahead of everybody else with his 3-second penalty. The Aston Martin is not quite that quick. If we can still get someone to try and tell us what's going on with Cameron Sell, that would be ideal for someone to report back to us. Willie blops up into 2nd place, brilliant overtake, and is now 63 seconds ahead of Matty. Matty, terrible couple of laps, has managed to drop, what's that, 89 seconds to Tom Hug. Terrible lap there from the driver that was in the lead. Can we have some sanity, please?
I'm desperately trying to find something right now.
Baz has passed Joe. I think
I've got Tom Hug's stream. I have Tom Hug's stream.
Excellent.
Okay, so current positions are Geek to Joe to Tom Hug to Assassin to Alpha right now.
Where the hell is Matty?
Matty has, I don't know, I can only see from Alpha up to Geek. So Matty could be P1 right now. Geek 2nd, Joe 3rd, Tom Hug 4th. So we could be seeing Matty Mumu out in the lead, but currently I'm not sure. It could be anyone at this moment in time. It's anyone's guess.
Are we on the final lap?
Currently, Tom is on the penultimate lap. So, but he is currently running rather a lot from everyone. He's 5 seconds behind Joe and about 5 seconds ahead of Assassin. Joe and Geek could be fighting for the for P2 currently. Assassin's just overtaken Alpha, but these two are Assassin and Alpha currently having a very good fight, which we can't see. Joe has gone. Joe. Everyone's setting fastest laps. So the track has dried out significantly.
Answers on postcard, everybody. We have no idea. Can't tell you anything.
We're trying our best right now, but it doesn't really seem like we're getting very far with it.
Well,
but thank you.
On our screen at least is very close to the back of Matty. We're on the final lap, apparently, probably lap 39 in reality. But as the Ferrari follows the Williams through Luffield, and up towards Woodcote. This could be the battle for the lead. We don't know, because apparently the top three is Tom Hug, 11 seconds ahead of Woolly Blobs. Woolly Blobs pulls out a brilliant lap to get in front of the Aston Martin. Manages to overturn 26 seconds in one corner. Brilliant stuff from the second Ferrari. He was having a terrible day, as we said, running last for the majority of it before flying up into the lead, despite having a 5-second penalty. You can probably guess what that was for. Matty and Geek squabbling through Maggots, Beckett's and Chappell's. The Ferrari sticks to the back of that Williams. No idea if this is actually happening, of course. We'll have to see when everybody crosses the line. This could be the final lap. Matty's won the race. No, this... well, I give up now. Matty's now driving really slowly. Geek is apparently second ahead of Joe. The interviews are going to be absolutely impossible because the last 5 laps we've had absolutely no clue what's gone on, but it is the order we can see because the checkered flags are coming up next to everybody's name. Matty is won by 5.2 seconds ahead of Geek. Joe completing the podium ahead of Tom Hug, the 2 McLarens, BUSR, Iceboy, Woolly Blobs, and then the AI of AD. Any updates on the Cameron Searle situation would be ideal.
It is just chaos right now. On my stream, it says that Geek and Joe are up there. I'm beyond.
Has the race finished for you? Because that would be bad.
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Tom Hugger's just crossed the line.
Oh, he's just crossed the line. Oh no.
The official standings then are.
We're watching the podium.
Yes, the official standings are Matty to Geek to Joe to Tom to Assassin to Alpha, then BUSR and P7.
I think we've got the actual race results for everybody to see.
But obviously Cameron Searle with that DNF should have been on the top step there.
We'll have to see what's going on. Obviously the glitch from retiring, or the disconnect and then rejoin glitch, striking him down, unfortunately enough, and hopefully that does get overturned because
Joe,
considering he was 25 seconds in the lead. No, that's if we go over to the results tab, which is on the right, we'll be able to see what actually happened in the end. And we've only got 30 seconds to do it because somebody has readied up very quickly, so we're running out of time. The interviews are going to be impossible as well. As we go through, Matty winning from Geek and Joe, penalties apiece for 3rd and 4th. Tom Hub, brilliant haul of points. 4th on the road, could be 5th, and well, that's the end of that. No idea. No idea.
Well,
no idea.
It was going so well. It was going so well until the very end there.
I've got a terrible trim from all of this as well. Too much stress going on trying to report things we can't actually see because they're not actually going on.
Yeah, it's just been, carnage and then nothing, and then all of a sudden we've got people disconnecting, and then massive desync. I don't even know how you could desync that badly, to be honest. I'm quite surprised.
I mean, it's impressive. It's very impressive.
Because if it's going to be like desyncing for the observer, then surely it would be desyncing for the rest of the drivers. But it seemed like the drivers were having a rather.
I mean, I do have some ties with EA Sports, so I'm not going to badmouth their game. But that was that was a bit of a yikes moment for everybody involved. Not ideal.
Well, I don't, and that was absolutely catatonic.
For everyone that missed the start of the stream, because there will be people that were in lobby 2 that are coming in. Thank you, Alex, for your message. What happened was, start of the sprint race, we saw the disconnect happen from I think it was Cameron Searle. We then desynced for the entirety of the sprint race. If you watch it back, it's probably quite funny to watch, I'll be honest. Then we had a pretty standard race up until lap 20, where I think it was around lap 20 where Cameron Searle disconnected again, then rejoined, had the glitch where you retire trying to retake over your car. We've said that he should be given the race win. If he's not, then I'll personally hand him a trophy for it or whatever. Then we had the massive desync at the end. Everybody actually finished the race about 30 seconds before we saw it, so we have no idea what went on. We'll try and give some actual results for people when they come through and when they're confirmed. I mean, interview-wise, that's gonna be a bit difficult, to be honest. We're gonna have to ask them questions about things we didn't see. I think we're going to talk to the top 3, though. I believe Joe came home in 3rd, so if Joe's going to talk to us next, that'll be ideal. Hopefully, I mean, season finale next week. Hopefully, it's not like this.
Yeah, the only thing is though is that if Cameron Searle is noted as a DNF for that one, then that blows the championship wide open.
It does.
Absolutely,
it does make it very interesting because he has retired twice.
Yeah. Because then that puts let me just get out the point sheet then. It looks it looks like the officials are in fact noting Cameron Sell as having a DNF for the
I mean,
for that race.
we're supposed to be unbiased as commentators,
Yeah.
but I think that is incredibly unfair.
That is
if we
very
can,
harsh.
I would ask if we can talk to Cameron, but I don't think he'll probably be in the mood to talk to two idiots like us after what's just happened. So we'll leave him to contemplate what's gone on. If we can start the interviews now, and we'll bring in third place Joe to talk about some of what
Game
happened.
was
We didn't get to see all of it. Sorry to bring you in slightly unawares there, Joe. But third place, a podium. Currently, we didn't see any of the last 10 laps or 5 laps or so we don't know what went on. Do you want to just sum up how that race went for you, though?
The race was pretty good after a funny sprint race. It was, it was a pretty good race actually. The weather made it nice and interesting. I don't think you missed an awful lot. The track dried up. Everyone went on to softs for a bit. Matty won after Cameron's game killed itself. And I don't know. That happened.
I'd like to ask you about the sprint race, but we didn't see any of that either. So that's going to be slightly difficult. I will talk to you about the first lap of the actual race though, because you made a really good start from I think it was 12th on the grid.
Yeah. I managed to get up into P6, I think, by the end of N1 lap. I just went soft, so I saw that it was going to rain, so I was like, you know what, let's just send it, let's have some fun. So I made a couple positions up through turn 1 and 2, and then down I forget what the name of the straight is, but a straight.
Yeah.
Managed to get someone else in there, and then someone else going into cops. So yeah, I had some good battles on lap 1 and 2. I quite like it when the trap's a bit greasy because it started spitting like into turn 3. So I enjoyed the greasy track. I felt quite comfortable. It was quite good.
We saw that actually as well, to be fair, because especially in the middle part of that race, you looked very confident overtaking drivers. Was that, as you said there, was that confidence coming back to you?
Yeah, I mean, considering I wasn't on a wet setup, I just took a dry setup on it, I don't really care. I kind of just sent it with a dry setup. But I quite enjoy the wet. I feel like I can kind of get a bit more out of it in the wet. So I felt quite comfortable. Managed to make some moves, had some good battles with Assassin, Tom Hug, a bit of Geek in there too. So yeah, it was pretty good.
Alex?
One more thing was that side by side, the 3-way action that you had with Geek and Alpha. No, was it Assassin or Alpha? Yeah, Assassin. You went 3 wides on the last corner there, and then was it Geek that pushed you wide there? I couldn't really make out if it was just that.
Yeah,
you and Assassin were just getting a little bit too topsy turvy, or was it Geek?
It was quite an incident. Well, not much of an incident to be fair. It was more of a gentle tap. But I left hopefully enough space for Geek on the inside because I did see the red arrow, so I left him a bit of room, but I couldn't go left much more because otherwise I would have hit Assassin. So I got hit by Geek, who probably went a bit deep because it's quite hard, especially when you're that tight to the curb. And I got hit through there, and then I got hit a little bit into Assassin, who almost died. Thankfully he didn't. So I'm not sure. We'll see what the stewards have to say about it. Typically push to pass has been 5-second penalty, so we could be looking at a P2 hopefully.
To be fair, it does seem to be the case that it was a bit of a racing incident, because it did seem to be that the track was to be running out just a little bit there, or just getting a little greasy there.
Yeah. We will.
But we shall see.
I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
What are your going into the finale next week? What are your hopes for that race? Is it a track that you're confident at?
Apparently, I'm quite good at Bahrain, according to Cameron. I don't know. It's a track that's all right for controller. Apparently, the deg is horrible, so that will be strong for wheel in the race. I don't know if I'll do another last to first like I've done the past 2 races just for fun. I'm not in championship contention, but obviously with the DNF of Cameron, I'll see if maybe me doing stuff can help Matty with his championship. So I don't know, maybe I'll maybe I'll be qualifying that time. But I quite like Bahrain. I've done all right there in the past. The track that I feel relatively comfortable on. It's not got any S sections, which makes me happy.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us this evening. Very decent podium as well. Good recovery from that last first challenge. Yeah, wish you the best of luck for the finale next week.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. So, third place covered. We're now going to bring in Geek, who was, of course, the runner-up. And I think we do have some decent stuff that we can talk to Geek about, notably the start of the race and the decision to put on the hard compound tyres. Geek, hello. Second place. Wasn't looking like it was going to be second for the majority of it. Starting off with qualifying, though, the pace looked fairly decent.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the same old, as I say when I come into the interview room. Just I've been focused on uni work and didn't really start doing much until last night, where I was seriously struggling with time trial. But no, I came on today and just was doing consistently low 25s in the dry, and then did some wet practice just in case, because us lovely Brits, we never know what our weather's going to be like. So yeah. Qualifying went as well as it could have done, in my opinion. May have had the pace to beat Massey on just pure qualifying pace, but it was super, super tight anyway. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I'm just happy with how this result has gone. However, I'm completely heartbroken for my friend. It's yeah. I mean, it was awful.
We won't talk about it too much, of course, because I mean we don't know what the outcome will be. We'll focus on your race first. And with the start of the main race, obviously you chose to go on the hard tyres, and then it rained instantly. Were you aware the rain was coming, because it cost you a lot of places? I think you were down to P9 at that point.
Yeah, I mean, so like I usually VC with Cameron, my teammate Wooly. Ideally, we wanted to do the hards and then just see if it's like a little spittle. But like I was kind of bringing up the fact of I do think we should do the softs. I see other people around doing the softs. That rain looks like it's going to hit in 5 minutes time, give or take. I think if we want to keep good track position and just a good launch off the start, we need to be on those softs as the track dampens and gets wetter. But yeah, those hards at the start were really, really shockingly bad. I imagine in the dries normally they'd be fine. It was just it felt like I was driving on ice.
Well, you did lose a load of places. We then had a safety car call because we had a bit of a catastrophe in the pits, and then you managed to get yourself back through the remaining contenders pretty nicely.
Yeah, I mean, said catastrophe in the pits, I had a front row seat for that. No, what happened was Silverstone's pit entry it's not necessarily tricky per se. It's painful to best describe it. There's not really a marker for braking, and I think just two cars just sadly came together, and one of them ended up with a axle being broken. But now going on from there, Joe and Matty revealed to me that they were both running fully dry setups. I imagine because of the conditions, we were told, because the icons in this game are never accurate. Me, I kind of did a hybrid. I went 4 clicks higher on my dry setup because, I was anticipating, sorry, not anticipating, I wanted to be somewhat competitive in qualifying, even if it did sacrifice a tiny bit in the race. But I wasn't expecting it to be as it was in that race. Sorry, my speech is going badly. I'm dehydrated as anything, but no, I didn't expect it to be that wet for that long. Like, Joe was rapid. It was such a struggle to get past him. I really, really, really hope you guys caught it on stream, but I did my own through Ghost Hamilton.
I think Alex will probably talk to you about that overtake, because we definitely did capture it.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm in trouble for that.
I feel like I feel like it could be made a case that it might have been a bit of a racing incident, because it did look like you weren't like trying to hog up all of that track there. But that said, I'm not the steward for this
Yeah.
for this event, so I can't really comment too much on that. Also don't have the onboards either. But that said, there was a moment where it did look quite good going 3 wide. And it was quite a good spectacle to watch as well, because with Joe on the inside and the Alpha just on the edge, Assassin, sorry, almost getting collected there into a barrier, but it did seem to be, he did get forced off, but at the end of the day, we will have to see how it all happens, really.
Yeah, because I mean, just from my perspective, I just saw the gap open because those two were fighting like mad, and I saw my opportunity. I got alongside, come the apex. Unfortunately, the game somewhat stuttered, but it's been like that for everyone. That's just a host thing, unfortunately. And as it stutters, the next thing I know is I've clattered the sausage curb with just no room to go. But I can't necessarily chalk blame onto the other two. I'll just view it as a racing incident. Obviously, it's not really a corner you try to overtake at, but as I say, I saw the gap there. I stuck the nose in alongside. I was alongside at turn-in and apex. I might be fine, but if not, it is what it is, unfortunately.
And next week, obviously, with what happened to Cameron, as it stands, the championship is still a possibility. How are you feeling about Bahrain? Do you think there's a potential that you could maybe win it?
I am sick to my stomach, for one, and getting major PTSD flashback. I've said that wrong. PTSD flashbacks. The last time I was in a position like this at Bahrain, with the final race in the season, I lost it by silly strategy.
Yes, I think I remember.
And it was absolutely gut-wrenching, I'll be honest. I just... You could probably find it in the old interview, but I just was so defeated. This time around, I know a few things. I'm hoping that outcome can be different. So, I mean, if I can go for it, I'm going for it.
Well, hoping to right the wrongs of previous seasons is, I think, the best way to summarise that one.
It is to open anyway.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us. A very nice second place there. Good recovery from the first lap. And wish you the best of luck for the finale next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. I'll see you next week.
Thanking you. So we've spoken to Joe and we've spoken to Geek. We're now going to talk to the provisional race winner, Matty, who catapults himself into the championship battle. And I think he will probably have a few things to say, despite his race not necessarily being the most eventful. So if we bring our race winner in, Matty, we're going to start off with the elephant in the room. It did very much fall into your hands.
Yes, I believe that is how I would put it as well. I was just saying to Cameron and Geek, of all the races that I didn't think I'd win, this is probably, if alongside Las Vegas, I think, probably the race I didn't think I would win the most.
Well, I mean, if we talk about the pace, obviously compared to Cameron, it was not great. I think he was, 25 seconds ahead before the incident happened. Compared to everybody else, though, the pace looked fairly reasonable.
Pace was fine. I think that was due to setup. I think half the grid were on wet setup. I was on the dry setup side, so when it was dry, I was fine, but the wet setup, wet weather was a bit tricky at times. I just think especially because when I pit, my front left tyre was on 77% wear, which isn't great. So I had to pit, and I was very glad that when I did, it turned to soft weather that lap. So that worked out.
I think the thing that you did very well, though, which a lot of other people struggled with, which was keeping out of trouble, because it ended up you having quite an uneventful race, but that's what put you in the position you're in now.
Yeah. Start was brilliant, really. Cameron and Geek starting on hards. I'm like, why the heck are they on hards? It's about to rain. And then turn 3 from raindrops fell. I was like, yes. Cameron jumped me in the pits for whatever reason. I couldn't leave the box. So that was understandable. And yeah, having Tom Hug instead of Geek behind me helped a lot, because it just allowed me to create that gap I needed to be safe and free from any danger.
Alex, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably have said something about the sprint race, but obviously that just flew over. I don't know if you know, but we just couldn't see what the sprint race, what was happening in the sprint race because of just the desync
Well,
issues.
if you
and
watch it
whatnot.
back, you'll see what was going on. It was a bit mad.
Okay,
Yeah,
will do.
Yeah, I think both me and Tom kind of went a bit deranged at the end of that sprint race, to be honest. Anyway, that qualifying. I mean, did you expect to be, right up there at the top? That with Cameron there. I mean, you seem to be at one point like, a possible pole position contender, but obviously Cameron Sell just is just Cameron.
I wouldn't say I was personally considering myself likely to get pole, knowing that I was on a dry setup and it's intermediate conditions. But I was glad to be on the front row at least, which didn't matter for the sprint because I just missed the lights going out and dropped 3 places. Maybe you didn't see that, but
You see that?
recovered to third, and
No, I don't think we
that's where I started.
Yeah, no, it would have been nice to see him with some of the sprint race, but I think it was the case that we couldn't really see it. We had to get the final positions from Tom Hugg's YouTube stream for that matter because we had no idea who was actually up ahead right then. But yeah, well, definitely having a word with EA about the desync issues here because that was interesting at the end of it. But nevertheless, a very well done to your commendable efforts at P1 here at Silverstone.
I just wanted to say that Cameron Sell deserves this championship by the most margin anyone has ever done, I think, in BUSR F1. So, yeah, one more race to go.
How are you feeling for that race?
Well, fun fact that I started practicing for this race this morning. So I should probably start a bit sooner if there's now a championship on the line. But I know that Cameron and Geek will work together as they did today and most weeks, to be fair. So that'll be a challenge. And yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. Congratulations on your victory. Not all of it was necessarily down to your own work, but had to be there to pick up the pieces. So congratulations, and we wish you the best of luck for next week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we only saw 50% of the action. The 50% we did see was slightly less exciting than the 50% that we had to deal with because we didn't quite know what was going on. I mean, we've been campaigning for Cameron Sale to be reinstated. We don't know whether that will happen, of course. We have no influence over what happens. But if that is not the case, do you want to just run us through how the standings look going into the finale?
Well, so currently we've got Geekly in the championship by 6 points from Matty. So to be honest, it could go either way between those two. But Cameron Sell, a bit of a loft now with that classified as a DNS by the officials to be about 30 points behind the rest of the pack. So he's got to be making up some big strides to get back into this championship contention at the end of the end of Bahrain. But never say never. He's still within this. He's still within an earshot of some people. More likely to win it than others. Obviously, I mean Alpha and Assassin, they're all still within it. But it's really just a matter of are they still in that? 1 second. Yes, they are. No, they're not. Sorry. Are they? Yeah, no. It is just.
Realistically, it's a 3-horse race.
Yes, it is. No, mathematically, it's Cameron Sell, Matty, and Geek, the only ones who can win this championship. And to be honest, Cameron Sell has been faultless this entire season. So I feel like it would only be except.
Got to remember lap 1 of Vegas. Can't forget it. But I mean, like you said, he's finished 5 races. He's won all 5. Vegas was a one-off.
Yeah.
This week in Silverstone was not down to him at all. We all feel for him, and we hope that I mean, we haven't got to Bahrain yet, but we all know that he is probably the rightful winner of the championship, even if his name doesn't end up being lit up at the end of it. But that's going to conclude the action from Silverstone. Sorry that we weren't able to bring you everything that went on, but hopefully in the strife we tried to make it as entertaining as possible. And I think that, as Alex said to people earlier, us going slightly deranged during it may have made for an interesting spectacle. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see if it can all be done. I just want to point out real quick that in the BUSR Discord, Cameron has now changed his name to #VoidLap7. So I could. It wasn't even lap 7. What happened?
It
in
was
lap
about
7
lap
here?
20 or something.
Yeah.
I think. But
I think we need to change that to lap 20 now.
Thank you
round
everybody
7.
for watching.
There we
mate.
go. He's
Round
now changed
7,
it to Void round 7. Okay.
Thank you everybody for watching. It's been a pleasure as always. We'll see you next week in Bahrain for the finale. Who knows? We might have a championship on the line between 3 drivers scrapping it out. Thank you everybody, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Reaching out. Rainbow Road. There is no place and no moment in history where I could stand and say, British begins here, now.